Question of the day. What is your favorite touch point in a game? And by touch point, I mean somewhat emotional touch point. Maybe it features your hometown in the game. Maybe it features something that you grew up talking about or going to. Maybe it's like parks and it's you've gone on vacations and seen the national parks as a kid, and now you get to go visit them in the game. What's your favorite like emotional touch point in a game? Personally, I love it when a game features Mobile, Alabama. No, it's not a huge city. It's a big city as far as Alabama goes. It's third biggest. Possibly on its way to be second one day, but it's just it's cool to see my hometown represented in a game called Southern Rails. I love railroad games, you know this. I love the idea in an 18xx game of stock purchases control a railroad. You're not the blue railroad. You're a company who can control the blue railroad. That to me is one of my favorite mechanics, and not enough games use it. So when I saw this, my mind instantly said, zoomed out, distilled 18xx game. Now, they don't say that. It's not marketed like that. But you know how I'm always making obscure connections sometimes? That's what my brain did. Did it turn out to be that case? Let's find out right now. This is Southern Rails from Rio Grande. So this is Southern Rails laid out for 5 players. You would take away cards depending on the player count. So 3 players would only have 3 player order cards. You then put one of each of the company's shares down here. They're numbered. The numbers don't really matter other than just to keep track of how many are left over there unbought versus bought. You'll then put a player marker here for keeping track of round scoring and full scoring, as well as the individual railroads will have their different scoring markers over there on the different things. So revenue is at the bottom, and then the amount of red cities, blue cities, and green cities are there, as well as points per Atlanta. Atlanta gives you 4 points if you're there, so you would obviously move up there. So what's going to happen is this is essentially a zoomed out version of an 18xx game, very zoomed out. What's going to happen is these are track cubes up there. On your turn, they're going to go in player order and take a share of one of these railroads. After everybody picks one, and then in reverse player order, you'll pick another share. At the end of that, you'll have 2 different railroads to use. And essentially, the railroads that you have shares in will be the ones that you get to act with during the action round. On your turn, you will look at your shares and you choose one of those companies that you have shares in, and you will take one of the track cubes and place it onto the board. Now the first one can go anywhere, but once, let's just say I have a share of Western Atlantic, once that's placed, you would then have to start placing adjacent from it. So now red has 1 green city, so you'll mark that here, that the railroad has a green city, and that also green cities will increase the revenue by 1. Essentially, you're going to keep doing this. People will place different cubes out here. Let's just say that other people have placed out here. Eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to get these out here to go across. Different railroads will be all over the place, just stretching everywhere, all over the board until a railroad's 10th track is put out. And once the 10th track is put out, a scoring round will happen. Essentially, that'll be all of these cubes over here. Anything on this side, once this has been hit, that'll be an initial scoring. And the way this scores is, every single time you do a scoring, you do it pretty simply like this. First, the railroad with the most connected green cities earns 1 victory point per share. Well, if I've got 6 points of that, if I've got 6 shares of that, that would be 6 points. The railroad connected with the most blue cities earns 1 victory point per share yet again. Most red cities is 1 victory point per share. And the railroad with the highest revenue is 2 victory points per share. And the last is the railroad with the most track cubes on the map, minimum is 11, earns 1 victory point per share. Railroad with the fewest shares owned by players earns 1 victory point per share. So it's kind of a push and pull there. After that happens, turn order is determined again by the person with the fewest victory points. After that, you'll have a new stock round where you'll have a chance to grab a new share of a new company. This can obviously change the course of the game because you're going to be getting points based on those shares after that. If this is the 4th scoring round, or if the last scoring round was triggered by all players passing, essentially because they can't play, the game is over. Complete the current scoring round. There's no in-game scoring. The player with the most victory points is the winner. If there are multiple players, victory points, they reluctantly must accept the result. Wow, there's no tiebreaker either. It just says, just straight up, Must reluctantly accept the result. You can probably just flip a coin for it. But that is Southern Rails. It's actually very simple. It's a very zoomed out version of an 18xx game of sense. It's a train game with stocks in which you're benefiting and you're getting to play different railroads out there because you have shares in that company versus your player color over there, which is unrelated to these. So that's Southern Rails in a nutshell. First and foremost, I love stocks. In any game that has stocks like this, I'm going to be a fan. So it's going to take a lot to knock me off from being a fan of this in the first place, because the idea of you don't control a character, you control your company and they control stuff one step removed is such a cool mechanic because you don't get to do it very often. I love that. So the way the game looks, it's pretty straightforward. It looks like an 18xx game essentially. I mean, it's or a train game. It looks like, you know, the Rails games. That's not a knock. That's a, hey, this is what you're used to in a good way, right? Now could eventually somebody come along and do an art style that's just like boom for a train game? Yeah, it could be done, but I mean, this is what people are used to right now. So don't throw the baby out with the bath. Don't rock the boat or something like that. Essentially, this didn't bother me is what I'm trying to say. If it bothers you, I get it. Trust me. Don't hear me be dismissive of that. I get it if you say, well, it's flat. It's pretty basic. I get that, but I also know the pedigree that they're going for, the look that they're going for, the idea they're going for. So just hear me say that I like the way it looks because I'm used to this, but you may not. So secondly, the game, how does it play? It plays very fast. Let me tell you that. The scoring can happen almost a little too fast, in my opinion, because if you have three railroads that have been just pretty much chewed down, you can have a scoring round followed by a scoring round followed by a scoring round. Think about that. If you have, you know, the 10th one goes on this one, and this one's only got 11, and that one's only got 11, it could be score, and you could really end the game quickly. Now, essentially, that's not the worst thing in the world, because at first you're going to go, I don't have any points. There's no way I'm going to get points in this guy. I got 4 points. And at the end of it, you might end up with 24, 27, 30-something points and be like, oh, I get it. I see how I was able to get points because I managed to buy into a company that was definitely going to be doing well. Obviously, you're going to want to get into the company that is going to win. And if you don't, if that last round comes around, oh, I'm knocking the camera, aren't I? I just realized that. If that last round comes around and you don't have the cards that you want, you're going to need to, if you don't have the railroads, if you don't have the cards that you want, you need to get your railroads that you do have up the road, doing better. So a little bit of push and pull there. I enjoy that, though. I think this is a really smart, the smart distilled game. Again, they're not marketing like this. No one said this. No one sent me an email like, Bryan, could you talk about it like this? But in my mind, this is stripped down 18xx. But Bryan, how dare you say that? There's no money, blah, blah. Exactly. That's what I mean when I say stripped down. It gives you the mechanics that I like out of an 18xx game, the idea of being one step removed from the players. And then it gives you the idea of, okay, I can act with this train, but I can act with this train. I can somewhat partner up with this person until the last second when I go, no, I'm going over here. I mean, it's a lot of push and pulling. Now, it is simple. That's what I like about it. Your turn is, boop, taking a cube, putting it here. Every other turn, maybe you'll have to adjust the numbers, but I mean, it's basic, it's straightforward. I recommend having a banker do that. Don't have someone do it. Just have one person do it for everyone. It also gets tedious for everybody to have to do it. So it's straightforward, it's simple. Is it the prettiest game in the world? Nah, it's not. But is it fun? Absolutely. It's a railroad game that plays in, it says an hour. Nah, it plays faster than an hour. Honestly, if you get 4 people playing, especially who know the game, I mean, you're done in 30 minutes. It really is that fast. I mean, it's a good game. It's a solid game. The scoring works. I like the way that you don't just automatically score for your shares. You only score for the winning company. It's business, 101 distilled. So Southern Rails is a fun stock simulator. It's a fun kind of it's a fun, what am I trying to say? A fun economic simulator in the vein of 18xx games. It's really fun. I like it. If you're a trained person, you're going to like this game, especially if you're looking for a quick game, because here's what you can do. You got 18 Chesapeake back there, right? It's still kind of long if you're trying to introduce people to this system. Then you got 1830 behind it. Then you got like 18 something else, You go, hey, man, I got this great, you like Ticket to Ride? What if we play this game called Southern Rails, right? Play the game. They're like, wow, that was cool. That wasn't that much. Yeah, I put cubes out instead of trains. Oh, really? Cool. You liked it? Let's play it a couple more times. 2 weeks later. Hey, what about 18 Chesapeake? You know what I'm saying? It's a gateway. It's totally the... Anyway, forget it. The game is good. It's solid. I recommend it. If you're a train fan, go get this. If you're not a train fan, you may want to pass it because you're not going to like it anyway if you're not a train person. Unless you realize that this is mostly about stocks, not trains. So I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. Until next time, we'll see you.